Oh, love it, love it, love it. It is another episode. I think we're on episode 8 or 9 here of Off the Air and On the Record, where we take radio personalities all over the country and we take them off the air and we put them on the record and we just get a general sense of who they are, what they've been through, and how they got on your radio and in your ears. My name is Marco. I've been doing radio since 1986. It makes me sound old, but I guess the gray in my beard probably makes me look old. So that's good. I do things at Cumulus Radio in Toledo, Ohio, and my sister, whose name is Danny, doing mornings at Q103 in Frederick, Maryland. Good evening, Danny. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you?
I'm good, man. And just so you know, we're the only brother-sister combo morning show in the history of United States radio, as far as I know. Until somebody writes in a letter certified and gives it to us, we're going to say that even though we're not on the same in the same state. Good to be on with you here. Now, I'm really excited about tonight. I say that on each and every episode, and I truly am. Tonight's guest is a superstar in my mind. I grew up listening to him. One of the just coolest guys on the radio, and I'm sure he was that way in real life. You actually got to work with this gentleman, and I know you're excited as well.
I am very excited. This has kind of been like old home week, so I can't wait to get into this one. So let's move on.
I love it. All right. Well, listen, hit share, like, comment, subscribe to our channel. We're going to be talking to radio DJs all over the country and putting them on here. And tonight we are blessed and excited to have the one and only Kirk McEwen. We're going to take him off the air and put him on the record next. Oh, very excited with the Kirkster. I love it, man. Listen, you don't need any introduction on my end. You are a fantastic radio personality. You come through the radio speakers like nobody else. Big fan listening to you growing up. I know you worked with my sister, but I do have to start right off because I know you probably get this all the time, but when people see you, they're like, holy smokes, that's Kirk McEwen. Never would have guessed in a million years. How often does that happen?
Oh my God. I had a band back in the day, and the T-shirts on the back said, "I didn't know he was black." The guy in the line of Giant said, "What's that supposed to mean?" So he didn't get it, but a lot of people didn't get it. When I show up at Hammerjacks and I hop up on stage and it'd be like, "Wait a minute."
Yeah.
There was no social media then, Danny. We were
It's a surprise.
Club.
Well, listen. I mean, obviously, we grew up in the same area, and being we're Italian and ethnic, and having a multicultural background that doesn't surprise me. I think the thing that surprised me, you're on a rock station, which typically wouldn't have that, and then you just are so free, caring, and loving, and I'm sure it just added to whatever. But I'm sure there's a lot of people scratching their heads in Hammerjacks every once in a while.
Well, I was lucky enough to have a brother that grew up, it's always somebody with a bunch of albums and, hey, my dad turned me on that. Well, it was my brother. And it was Frampton Comes Alive. It was Hall & Oates, Earth, Wind and Fire, Bonnie Raitt, Stevie Wonder. It was everything. So I could see myself doing some urban. 939 WKYS. I remember 98 Rock came on the air in 1977, and I got the shirt on, wrong breast. I got the shirt on because I was at the joint practice today. We're the flagship station of the Ravens, the Orioles, and then rock and roll comedy. It's a cool combination of things. I'm lucky, man. I get to play rock and roll, go out to the Ravens camp, got the Orioles. So that's why I got the shirt on. But my brother was a rock and roll DJ at WKTK. So when I was 12 years old, I was taping his show, and he'd come home and listen to some breaks, and I knew what segues were and air checks, and I knew what I wanted to do by the time I was 12, 13 years old. So
yeah,
I remember going to WKTK, which is now 105.7 The Fan. So I worked at the same number on the dial that my brother did, but I went there and I was a young boy. He was playing Steely Dan Asia, and I had my hand up the soda machine trying to grab a soda all night long, and I could feel it, but I couldn't get it down.
Well, I'd be remiss to not say your brother Mark is just a fantastic, just an incredible, talented person on the radio. But he also did TV, didn't he?
Yeah, he started out at KTK as Midnight Mark because it was on from midnight to 5:30 in the morning or 6 then. Everything was like 6 to 10, 10 to 2, 2 to 6, 6 to
Oh, yeah.
anymore. I remember 7 to midnight. I was like, 7 to midnight? But they called him Midnight Mark. I thought it's because he was black, but it's because he was on midnight for 6 in the morning. And so he did WKTK. Then he went to Detroit, W4, WWWW, Detroit's W4. Howard Stern worked there. Steve Dahl worked there.
Wow.
And so my brother worked there for a while, was music director. Then he went to the Loop in Chicago, WLUP, Chicago's Loop, FM 98, worked there with, I think Brandmeier may have done overnights.
Jonathan Brandmeier, yeah.
Wild Bill Scott, who coined the term nuts to butts. It's nuts to butts in here. I mean, there's a lot of, that show is packed. It's nuts to butts. And then Sky Daniels worked there. It just incredible. In the Hancock Center, the building with the 2 horns on top.
Yeah.
So he went from Chicago to New York, WAPP. I mean, look at that trajectory. Baltimore, Detroit, Chicago, New York. So it was WAPP, summers commercial free. And it was the Crummy McEwen show, EJ Crummy and my brother Mark McEwen. It sounds like it's a terrible McEwen show, but it was actually the other guy had his name first. They did that for a while, and they had good ratings. APP got good ratings until they started playing commercials. And then my brother went to WNEW, and he was the night guy or fill-ins or whatever. Scott Muni was there, Dave Herman, Richard Neer, Lisa Glassberg, just incredible names in rock and roll. Scott Muni was on the ground when the Beatles landed.
Wow.
So my brother worked his way to mornings on WNEW.
Yeah.
And then they got fired, and they did a piece on the show in, maybe it was the New York Times, or it was one of the papers in New York, and CBS was putting together a new morning show with Mariette Hartley, Rollin Smith, Bob Saget was on that show as the sidekick. And then my brother was the weatherman. He'd never done weather.
Oh my gosh.
He was a little heavier, and weathermen were usually portly and jolly. And he jumped in and he turned that weatherman role into pop music editor, entertainment editor, turned into an anchor after Bryant Gumbel left. And then he got let go in 2002. But yeah, my brother, a pivotal player in my career.
Yeah, we're going to have to get him on. Maybe we know somebody who can help us out with that. But watching him, and having that introduction, it's kind of funny because I got my brother into radio because I was in radio, and it's really quite, it's kind of like those athletes where the brothers or the fathers are able to kind of pave the way. That had to have been amazing for you to watch, but you've kind of kept your career in the DMV, and that's pretty cool, right? For most of it?
For most of it, I was at 98 Rock from 84 to 90. I got full-time in 86, so I was part-time 84, 85, 86, 7 to midnight. And I did that until 90, and then DC101. I was beating DC. I was winning in DC from Baltimore, and DC101 took note of it. And I remember there were those little things that would sit on the countertop, and they would put a Post-it note or while you were out, a memo. And I never looked at that damn thing. And there was a note from young Dave Brown, the program director at DC101, and it sat there for like 10 days.
Wow.
And it was for me to call him, and I finally called him. He's like, wow, glad I wasn't somebody important like your broker or your mom or something. But what it showed him, and it was inadvertent, but it showed him I wasn't all that interested in
nice. Inadvertently playing hard to get.
Didn't even know I was playing hard to get, but I grew up listening to DC101. They were around before 98 Rock. And I sent in to be on Sitting In. They had a little show where you could come in and play tunes, just like Hey Mom on 98 Rock that we do now on Thursday nights with Wendy on 98 at night. You can send in, come in, play anything you want to if it's in the system. So I sent in something to DC101, never heard back, but that was my station. I liked him a lot. So when he called for me, I went. And 98 Rock tried to get me to go to Pirate Radio. Russ Motla, my program director, set up an interview with Scott Shannon in LA.
Yeah, 100.7 Pirate Radio.
Wow, listen to you.
Yeah.
That was he was crazy. I got to sit there and watch him work. He's like 103 Pirate Radio. Where were we doing the Pirate Radio? 10 in a row. We got 10 in a row starting off with Loverboy. That's Loverboy. And the guy had to piece all this together. I'm like, man, this guy's got to work his brains out because he's making you work for it, man. But I got a really good education on how they did it in LA, and I didn't feel it. And so I went back and I worked at DC101 for 3 years with Greaseman, who, why did let him? He was that's a legendary cat. I worked with Bob Rivers, just went into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Bob Rivers, Twisted Tunes.
Yep.
Santa Claus. 12 Pains of Christmas.
Yep.
So he stayed on the air for 267 hours or something when the Orioles went 0-21 back in 1988. One of the best bits radio has ever seen.
Ever.
Got him a job in Seattle, KISW.
Yes, it did.
A legendary career. So I ramble on, man. But yeah. And Lopez. There's Lopez right there on with the baseball hat on with John X. And that looks like one of the Regans, Brian Regan with Neil Martin Lopez. But it was Lopez who went out to Seattle to see Bob Rivers, who they worked together in the mornings. And Bob said, I got an agent, Paul Anderson. And Lopez came back, hey, we need to get this guy, Paul Anderson. Paul Anderson is he's been my agent for 20-some years now. He's the best in the business. He's got Workhouse Media. I know because I owe him money. Look at that. It's right here. But
I love it.
I'm telling you, if you're in radio and you don't have an agent, when you get let go, because you will get let go. I got Paul Anderson, who's got Ricky Smiley and all these guys all over the place. But Lopez came back with his name, and we were the first to have Paul Anderson as our agent. And now he's big. Just did morning show boot camp in Chicago that they do every year.
Wow.
Panel. So yeah, I've had a nice run, man.
So now I worked my entire career to get to, I've always wanted to do mornings, and like you, I grew up in the Frederick area, so I grew up with Don and Mike, Elliot and Woodside, the Greaseman, Howard Stern. I mean, there was no excuse not to be amazing on the radio when you have people like that. But you've worked nights, you've worked afternoons, you've been on an afternoon team, and you've been mornings, but you don't seem like you are like I need to be the morning guy. Is that something that just doesn't really matter when you're on, or have you always strived to be different times, or what's the story with that?
No, I need to be the morning guy. Let me just I don't care. I really like getting up early in the morning. Now I do. When I first got mornings, I came from 7 to midnight no, it was afternoons, and I'd get off at 7 or 8 o'clock, get that Long Island going. And so when they put me on mornings, I would lay on the floor during songs and get a little shut eye. It was bad. But then I really got to like that solitude that morning brings you. You're the only one up. And then when you leave the station at 11 o'clock or whatever, you're the only one, there's nobody, it's moms in minivans and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
But what we do in the afternoon is a lot like mornings. I mean, it's Kirk and Marianne 2 to 7 in the afternoon on 98 Rock in Baltimore. You can get the app. 98 Rock app is in the store. But we do a morning show in the afternoon, and we try not to repeat what Justin, Scott, and Spiegel do in the morning.
Right.
So if he does a story on, I don't know, the woman with 2 uteruses, I'm probably not going to do that because they've spent time on it. But and we share what we do. Like Josh will send us what he covered that morning, and then we can work around it. And some will even say, hey, they had this in the morning, but we got to tell you, this guy with two penises. Can you tell where we go? Things like that are just incredible. And the New York Post has it all. What a great source of prep the New York Post is. The Daily Mail, and then we get the Complete Sheet and Dr. Dave's Ultimate Prep.
Yeah.
Premier Prep. There's preparation services that jocks use, and I know you have a lot of jocks that listen to the podcast on the air, off the record, and they probably use the same things. What I hate is when another station in the city has the same service. It's not exclusive to be like, hey, I just heard Marco do the same story. What the hell?
Yeah. I've often told my friends, if you could hop on a plane somehow and be in every major city in one day, you'd kind of hear the same stuff, generally speaking. Pretty funny.
Yeah. And you mentioned Don Geronimo a second ago, and Jim Elliott. I was at a party at Tommy Schoenberg's. He's a record guy. And last year I didn't go. I'm like, this is my Saturday. I ought to stay home. So I came up with some excuse. His daughter's a friend of mine, and I didn't go. And so this year I say, look, I blew this party off last year. I got to go. I walk into this party. There's Jim Elliott, Jack Diamond, Don Geronimo, Jason Kidd, all these guys, Frank Felice, record guys. There's Don Geronimo in the middle and Jack Diamond. And Don, I'd never met until a month and a half ago.
Oh, my God.
And then I don't have to tell you what happened, but Don and Mike, I worked with Mike O'Mara at 105.9 The Edge, and I know firsthand they're edgy. They take it up to the edge and then they'll put a toe over. I don't know if what he did was as egregious as some of the other things they've done.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with a team that's trying to get away from sexual assault and harassment and all these other things,
timing, man,
zero tolerance thing. And I'm not going to rehash what went on, and those in radio know, and those that don't can Google. But it can turn quick on you. But that's a name that Don and Mike, man. If you're in radio, you knew the radio gods.
Yeah.
You knew that they were getting paid and they were syndicated, and you aspired to be that.
Yeah.
But I tell you, you really, these days, any day, I think my parents brought me up in a way that I don't, you try and be funny, but you don't want to get, there's a red light. Marco and Danny, I don't know if you guys get, Mark Woodworth, when I worked with him, he said there's a light that goes off in your head when you get too close to curse words or saying
blue
something.
or yeah.
There's ways to do it, but you got to be careful. And I hate to see anybody lose their job, but I understand.
Yeah.
Well, you were right up there with all of the guys you mentioned, and I want to go back to 98 Rock for a second, because even though I mean, it was funny because typically a guy likes rock music, a girl likes top 40. I worked top 40 my entire life. Danny worked at the rock station, so we were kind of flipped. But 98 Rock, even though I wasn't a rocker, I would say from 1986 to like 94, 95, there was not a better radio station that sounded cooler, hipper, more fun, more edgy. It just was huge. And you worked there at the heyday, man. I mean, that station, it just transcended everything. It was incredible.
I put a lot of that on Russ Motla, who was the program director, and he talked about a few things. I forget the guy's name. It was a Japanese emperor, but he said, make a plan and stick to it. And you sit down with your brass and you come up with a plan for the station. And Russ, he called it stationality. And it's like a personality, but it's the sound of the station, how you feel. You don't remember the songs as much as you remember 98 Rock, the station that doesn't suck.
Yes.
And, I just want to say, see ya. We had people all over town saying, see ya. See ya.
I said that in high school. That was part of my vernacular, man. I mean, you guys, I'm telling you, it was like pop culture. It was insane.
Yeah.
It was crazy, dude. It took over the city, and We had Cuz sitting on a toilet, and some guy comes up and if you don't listen, the puppy gets it. And somebody
remember that, the puppy in the blender ad?
Yeah, they're gonna kill the puppy if you don't listen to the radio station.
Yeah,
and that's Baltimore, man. Baltimore. If the city likes you, they love you. If they don't like you, they don't care about you. You can grow on them, but it's different if you're from here and hey, look, hey, Carl, everything okay over there, hon? I mean, it's just,
hey, you guys going down the ocean there, hun?
Yeah, down the ocean and Dundalk and
yep.
Yeah, if you're from Baltimore, you get it. They get it. My buddy Slash from back in the day, he was at a Lenny Kravitz concert, walking around backstage with no shirt on. I think he just put it on one of his albums. And I'm like, dude, what's up? Slash Snake Pit. Interviewed him many, many times over the years. Saul Hudson. But yeah, 98 Rock, Guns N' Roses playing Hammerjacks. Kicks from Hagerstown. Right there near you guys in Fredneck. I mean, every band opened for Kicks. Poison, Guns N' Roses, White Lions, Skid Row. I mean, all these bands, and a lot of them made it bigger than Kicks. Kicks, coming to the end of it, Steve Whiteman, 65 years old, Jimmy Chalfant, Chocolate, the drummer, almost died during a concert. September 17th is their last show.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be the MC at Merriweather Post Pavilion.
Nice.
Get your tickets now. For Kicks, the Dirty Boys from the Underground. Steve Whiteman from Kicks. And I mean, they had Don't Close Your Eyes. They had a bunch of great songs, man. They showed you how to do it. And they do the like Cold Blood is all you. And then they boom, boom, and both guitar players drop down on their knees, and now they're getting a little older, so they just kind of
mosey on down.
They gotta slide down a little easier. But hey, man, I remember I was at the University of Maryland, and Kicks was playing with keggers out in between the quad of Elkton, Hagerstown, and
Ellicott.
Ellicott.
Ellicott. That's where my son lived in Ellicott his freshman year.
But yeah, Kicks was playing on the little area between it. And now I went to school in 1982 to 86. So they had a good long run, man. And so that they were part of the heyday too. And
hey, I have a good story. We heard you met my colleague Ron Ross at University of Maryland at one point.
Yeah, we were battling it out for the same woman. And guess who?
No doubt in my mind.
I don't even remember. I just know that we both liked the same girl, and I was like, "This guy's really cool," but man, I'm trying to. Yeah, Ron is a great guy. He is a great guy. When I worked at DC101, he worked there for a while. He was Ricochet. Yeah, and then Ron had a good long run at Sirius XM. Man, I couldn't get in there. I was talking to, who was it? Last name Steele. Might have been Brian Steele, Drew Steele. I forget. But I couldn't get it.
I think it was because he told me he got in there because he knew somebody. So it was all about who you knew, really. So
Well,
so along with radio, Kirk, you have, and I think I even remember back in the day, you have always been a performer. Like when did that start? And now obviously you have this awesome project, Petticoat Junction, the Tom Petty tribute band. Tell me like when all that started and now you've been able to grow it to something amazing.
Well, thanks for calling it a tribute band and not a cover band.
Yeah.
I really love Tom Petty. I got high to Damn the Torpedoes when I was 12 and 13 years old. Look, isn't it crazy how marijuana is now legal all over the place? And I duck into alleys and everything. I knew at an early age what it could do, but it was Tom Myers. Danny, you were promotions director, and Tom Myers was, I don't know if he was, I think he was before you.
I think I worked under him for a little bit, and then he quit or whatever, left, and that's how I became promotions director, I think.
Yeah, well, it was Tom Myers who. Oh, we had there was a booth. Uh, it was pre-karaoke, and there was some booth, and you could sing to the song that you wanted to sing. And I sang David Lee Roth's Yankee Rose.
Wow.
And Tom Myers, I'm talking about a Yankee Rose, and she's hot. So, and Tom's like, man, you got something. Let's do. So then there was a band in Baltimore called Prophecy.
Yeah.
Scott Lean, his brother Phil Lean, Jason Mitchell, another Scott, and they put me with them. So Prophecy would come out and open up, go backstage and change, and then we'd come out again as Kirk McEwen in the Rock Zone band.
Yeah.
A bunch of covers and everything. And so then when I left 98 Rock and went to DC101, I put together another band. And then when I went to Tampa, I put together a band down there.
Oh,
And
that's right. I forgot you were in Tampa. That's right.
yeah, I was in Tampa doing sports talk with Chris Dingman, who was an enforcer, we'll call him, in hockey. Some people call him goons or cement head or whatever.
Yep. Yep.
Chris Dingman's got 2 cups, one with the Avs and one with the Lightning. And if you mess with, let's say, Steve Stamkos, he skates out and kicks your ass.
Yep.
He's back to the bench. So they put us together. What could go wrong? A black guy from the Atlantic and a Canadian. He was way up there. I forget. It was over Vancouver.
I think isn't he from like Sault Ste. Marie or something like that?
Oh man, they were the hay. I forget. It'll come to me long after we're done here.
Yeah.
But I flew down to Tampa. I was in between gigs. I auditioned with him. Others had auditioned, and it went well. And so I got the job, and I was there for like 18 months. But about the performer thing, my dad used to sing opera when he was alive. God rest his soul. He sang Porgy and Bess. He sang opera.
Wow.
La Boheme and arias and stuff like that. He had a baby grand and a studio, and he taught voice. My chorus teacher was his accompanist. So I hooked up my chorus teacher with my dad, and he'd play for him and stuff. But my dad, because he was a singer, I always liked to sing, and it was kind of nerdy to be in the chorus, and I kind of put my foot in the water chorus, but I wasn't all the way in. I was the lead in Black Bye Bye Birdie, and it didn't come off in high school. It didn't cross the finish line, but my sister called it Bye Bye Blackbirdie, but it was cool. I love to sing, and so I've had a bunch of bands, and I really liked Tom Petty growing up, and I wanted to put together a Tom Petty tribute band, and then he died.
Yeah.
In October of 17, and so I said I got to do this, and so in January of 18, I was fighting bronchitis, and I went and got together with these guys. I called my guitar player I use all the time, Greg Meadows. We went to high school together. He's been in a bunch of my bands. And I said, Greg, dude, let's do this Tom Petty band. He said, dude, I hate Tom Petty. Call Dave DeMarco. So Greg's out.
That's a hard pass. That was a hard pass.
Okay. Dave DeMarco is the bass player for Crack the Sky. And Crack the Sky has been around since the 70s.
Yeah.
They're progressive rock giants. Look up Crack the Sky, people.
They're playing up here. They're playing up here soon, actually. We just did a thing for them.
Ash is kicking ass. I see you, Ash. I see you, Ash. But so Dave DeMarco got some guitar players and a keyboard player. Glenn Workman from Crack the Sky was our original keyboard player. He's too busy, though. He's got a Steely Dan cover band called Technicolor Motorhome. And I love Steely Dan. It's like one of my favorite bands. And he's also in Sons of Pirates and Crack the Sky. He's busy. So we got Andy Bruce as our keyboard player now. But when we practiced the first time, I was just getting over bronchitis. And I'm like, I don't think I can do it, guys. And Glenn said, it's probably because you're getting over bronchitis. Let's get together in 2 weeks. And we got together in 2 weeks, and I felt a lot better about it. Dude, we just played Saturday, the Warner Theater in DC, where B.B. King, Joe Jackson, Phil Collins, Little Feat, all these great bands played. And here I am. They did a Tom Petty tribute, and it was 57 musicians, a lot of musicians that are good, but we're a band that does this all the time. So we opened the second set and kicked ass. It was just surreal to be on that stage. I never thought I'd be on
That's
the stage.
amazing.
It is. Do you
Yeah.
find being musically inclined and being able to play the instruments, did that help you in radio when you're doing interviews with these monster rockers where you could maybe talk shop a little bit? Does that help?
Well, I tried to play guitar, but with these tiny fingers, don't get any ideas, ladies. It's a Coke bottle. It's like a Coke bottle. I couldn't work that fretboard, man. I was like, you know what? Forget this. So I never played an instrument, and I give all the credit to the people that, if you could, like Dave Grohl. Look at Dave Grohl. He can
Amazing.
play the drums, come out from behind that kit with Nirvana all those years, and play guitar and write catchy song after catchy song. And he
Yeah.
never puts out the best song first. And musicians never do. When you're jonesing for a Foo Fighters song, you're just happy to get a Foo Fighters song. And so he'll throw you shame, 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 which is okay. And then he'll give you, I've been waiting on a wall. You know what I mean? That song, oh my God. You give that one second or third, just like this new one with Rescue Me. What a great song. But yeah, I give all the credit to a guy or girl who can stand there at a microphone and play guitar and not have to stare at your hands and sing into. Dude, I've got a cheat sheet on my tablet that's sitting there and you can see me like I'm doing something, playing. I'm getting my lyrics in case, too many brain cells. You got to have your cheat sheet there. Hey, Frank Sinatra back in the day.
Now, listen, when you start weed at 12 years old, it's going to, you might forget a few lyrics here and there. So,
yeah, man.
There you go.
Jesse from one of my bands with the big mouth agape there, and Steve Whiteman from Kicks, and Allison, who was married to Brian Jack. God rest his soul.
Yeah.
He died a long time ago.
Yeah.
He was in Child's
Play. Yep.
And he had a nice little solo thing going, but fell into some bad some issues, musicians, comedians. Boy, and I did comedy for a while. You talk about a tough gig, Marco.
How is that? My gosh.
I couldn't do it, man.
It's hard, man. And I've never put an album out, but I had 20 good minutes. They did Baltimore's Funniest Person, and one year I didn't place, but the next year in 1999 I got second. Eric Myers won, and Eric Myers was funny. Oh my God, I am so lost. I'm trying to find your house. Well, where are you? I'm in the parking lot. He was great. He got hit by a car, stepped out in the street last year or so. But anyway, comedy's so hard, man. That's why so many comedians, once they make it as a comedian and they get a chance to do something else,
movies or something,
that's what they do.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy, they all roll to something else and then come back and do a one-off,
Yeah. But for radio, you've been on by yourself, entertaining people on the air, and you've also had a partner. Which do you like better? Do you like doing it solo, or do you like having a partner? And tell us why.
Well, to do it by yourself, unless you're, I don't know, Francesa up in New York or Rush Limbaugh or somebody like that. My thing is better bouncing off somebody.
Yeah.
Because when I hear you say something, I can roll that around in my head and come up with something funny. I think the solo thing is if you're playing a lot of tunes, 98 Rock, Led Zeppelin, that's Houses of the Holy, and Pink Floyd's got a new album out or whatever, then you're going to go to a song.
Right.
And I'm not that, I haven't really worked that muscle where, and I was a government major in college, I love government and politics. And I could do that. It would take a while to ramp up because I'm like, talking about uteruses and two penises right now. On our show, is it funny?
Yeah.
Is it bizarre? Or is it personal? It's got to fit in one of those buckets. And it's got to be compelling and you got to be able to tell a story with it. And so Marianne has things that intrigue her. And I've got things that I like. Like tomorrow, they've got these robo taxis in San Francisco that people are having sex in, steaming up the windows and everything.
Yep.
And they're thinking about pulling them back. There's also the best place to sit on a plane if you want to get some sleep. And so it's not all sex, but I've got things that I like to tell you when it's July 11th and it's 7-Eleven day, like today. You could go to Taco Bell and get a free taco. Dude, if I'm 24 years old and listening to the radio station, that's big news because they beat Taco John for Taco Tuesday.
Yeah.
So not only today, but the 22nd, the 29th, and then next in September, you're getting a free taco. Who told you? I did.
Yeah.
So I like bouncing off of people better than being there sitting by myself because I got to play 12 songs an hour if I do that.
Right. Do you think radio is harder in 2023 than it was in 2003?
Dude, after Me Too and it's you don't want to. I mean, I can't even play some of the comedy bits I used to be able to play on the air. You'll play some things and you'll be aghast because like I've got all this comedy and it'll say Louis C.K. at the party and it's 45 seconds or 50 and when I've got 30 seconds left on a song, I'm looking. Okay, boom. And I'll play that and then halfway through it's like, dude,
hit the dump button.
Yeah. So now I'm previewing things again, but it was a little more carefree back in the day. Look, Don Geronimo probably wouldn't have gotten fired in 2003 for saying what he said last
Not
week.
even close.
No. But it's challenging. We're in a different place, man, with Spotify and all these freaking podcasts. Damn it, Marco and Danny, I blame you because people now have all these different things that they can listen to and take their time. And it used to be AM, FM, cassette. When I got in, and then CDs, I started in 84, and CDs hit the scene right around then. I used to say, from CD player number 2, that was, and my boss is like, what the hell are you doing?
The hell you
do? What do you mean, man? I thought that was cool.
That is good.
I'm worried about radio.
Yeah.
They're trying to take AM out of the forest.
Yep.
And it's like we're making horses and the buggy. And then Henry Ford's over there. He's got cars going, but people are still clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop.
Yeah.
So how does radio stay relevant in Kirk McEwen's eyes?
It's all about personalities. It's all about getting something that you can't get somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I am a personality. I can speak on a number of topics. I got a little bit on a lot. Now, if you want to get real deep on religion or something, I got to tap out. But I can talk about a bunch of things. And it's interesting. The ball doesn't – it's like volleyball. You got to keep that ball in the air, man.
Yeah.
Or it's like a beach ball at a shed show outside. When it comes to you got to keep that ball going. And I thrive on that. I'm not – sometimes if Marianne is out, we'll have some fill-ins and their answers are short and staccato.
Oh,
I stopped talking with you guys to let you back in. I could just keep going, but I want to let you back in. But when I work with some people, they don't – I don't know how to put it, but they just don't get it the same way, and they're not able to keep the ball in the air as much. And I thrive on that. I also don't like crutches. I may have given you one or two ums, but it's important for me to not. I'll stop and shut up
Yeah.
and then start talking again instead of going,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
it's a pet peeve of mine.
Well, that's a professional thing. Look, I think radio people, their brain works in a way that is just it's fascinating, really, because and once you do it for a while, and you've been doing this for a long time now, you get the rhythm, especially when you're working with somebody else, you understand kind of where they're headed or their pauses, times to jump in and out. It is a lot about timing, like comedy and like music, following a set list, reading a room. Like there's so many things that you've done that seem kind of all over the place, yet they're all so married to one another. The sports stuff you're doing now, I mean, you are really kind of cemented in all these amazing things, which I mean, it's so amazing and fascinating. I'm just so happy for you, really.
I appreciate you, Danny, and thanks for having me on. You guys are doing a great thing. And just two things come to mind. One, when I was a kid, I would watch Merv Griffin and Mike Douglas, and they'd come out and they'd do a little monologue, sing a song, and then they'd sit down and talk to people. And I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
that's what I want to do. Yeah. So you come out and you kick a tune, you know,
Yeah.
someday when I'm awfully low, when the cool, I love me some Frank Sinatra. Tony Bennett, dude, just died.
That's amazing.
Singer Tony Bennett. My brother did a show called A&E, Live by Request, and Tony Bennett put that show together, and they wanted to use a female host, and Tony Bennett and my brother were friends, and Tony said, "No, I want Mark McEwen to host it." And they said, "No, we really think this." And Tony said, "No, Mark McEwen is going to be the host of that show." Tony Bennett painted a picture of my brother, and it looks just like him.
Holy
That's
cow!
crazy. So I forget where I was going, but yeah, the whole Mike Douglas thing appealed to me, and I don't know what the other thing was. I start going off on different tangents.
Yeah,
It's all.
What the other one was.
It's all good, man. We love it, and the fact is that
I know what it was. To keep the ball in the air and to ad lib and to be able to talk is something that I found out that television people aren't that good at because they've got a teleprompter that says "2 dead in Cincinnati." Listen with the update.
yes,
It's all that scroll. It's all scrolling down, and they can read it. Radio ain't like that.
yeah,
And not what we do. And I mean,
Yeah.
we're playing 6 songs an hour, but there's 5-minute, 7-minute clips of us talking, and then there's shorter breaks. But when people are in their car in the morning, they're going to work, and the morning show drives the radio station. It's like watching Monday Night Football and falling asleep, and the TV is on ESPN, and you wake up the next morning, TV's on ESPN.
Yeah.
So the morning show drives the station. People get up, but they got to come home too. So they get in their car, and if they got to work at 9:45, well, the station's on 98 Rock when they get back in their car. So
Right.
we hope to keep them, and
yeah,
Mariana, we've been together for 7 years, and at a time when radio was taking people away, they added somebody to our station, which I found very telling. Hearst
yeah.
is you hear horror stories about some of these other companies, and Hearst ain't like that. So
Yeah.
You find it funny that what you're talking about and what Danny talked about a little earlier with telling a story and being able to capture the moment. You talked about actually shutting up for a second and collecting your thoughts, which is pregnant pauses are great for conversation. But what we're doing today actually is a lost art with tablets and texting and phones and instant messaging. Like all that personal touch is actually almost non-existent in the real world. And here we are in an old medium doing something that is not being done anywhere hardly. Like you said, TV, nothing really.
Marco, I worry so much about the next generation. They can't speak to each other.
Wow.
It's all texting and sitting around a restaurant table with 4 or 5 22 or 18 to 25-year-olds, and nobody's talking.
Yep.
And everybody's texting, and they'll even text people at the table.
Yep.
You go somewhere and try and get a job and talk to somebody. Go out to any restaurant or where somebody's taking your order and they're standing up. you can't even talk to me and I've got to give you 15 or 20% or a customized tip. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And where did these don't get me going? And I get it. Look, it's a menial job and you're not getting paid much. I ain't got no problem giving you a buck or two at Panera. But man, it helps if you've got some communication skills and they're really not there anymore because of all the tech. I am not a tech guy. I bought a book on how to write a screenplay and I read it and put it down and couldn't really figure it out. But man, I wanted to write a movie called Divisive because everybody's device
Yeah.
is driving a wedge between everybody else. And there's
Yeah.
commercials. I love commercials. Commercials to me on television are like little movies. You know, liberty, liberty, liberty. I mean, you know, the emu. Um, but there's a commercial on TV where a girl is sitting at the dinner table and she's got her earbud in and she's texting her friend or she's scrolling TikTok, scrolling. Listen, I got an 11-year-old son. Bro scrolls his brains out, and I'm not like one to monitor what you're doing and cut it off at 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, you figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
You know, he could turn into some computer program whiz or have something on Twitch or Switch or whatever the hell it is. And I don't know. And here I am saying, put it down, put it down.
Yeah.
So, but I do worry about the communication skills of people because they don't talk much anymore. And the word like, oh my God.
Oh gosh.
And you're
Yeah.
like, and he like, and I like, and you like, and then he was like, God.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
it's interesting that you say that though, because of all the people we've talked with so far, everyone has been in the industry for a long period of time. You know, I'm thinking about like Luke Katz and even Ron Ross and Marco and Matthew Blades. Like, I feel like it this medium or the personality part that we talk about a lot and connecting with people and being sincere and genuine and real people or whatever that is, it worries me because we don't seem to have that influx. I wanted to work in radio. 98 Rock was like my MTV. I started at Z104, and we'd go to Hammerjacks, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I want to work for that radio station. I listened to it. I loved it. I just don't feel like there are kids now, or maybe I'm not meeting them, that go, oh my gosh, you have like the greatest job ever. I want to work there. I want to you cut my teeth by doing over. We used to work for free, like just to hang around the radio station, hoping somebody doesn't show up. And you're like, hey, okay, kid, go ahead. You're in. But I don't feel like that's around anymore. And it is a little worrisome for radio as an industry. Like we've got to churn up these kids to see what we saw, you know, back in the day.
I don't think they're there, Danny.
Yeah.
It's like it used to be you'd get a young guy or girl, they work 7 to midnight or the overnight shift, get their game on, then they would go to midday or mornings as a sidekick or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what I did, 7 to
Yeah.
midnight to afternoon to morning, and now I'm doing afternoon. But there is no minor league. There's no
Yeah.
up and comers anymore. And I'll just tell you a quick story. I mean, we're looking for part-timers and trying to hire somebody to be that second wave because we're all getting older and we need some
Yeah.
people to come along. We hired, it used to be Kirk Lopez, Mark Ondeco, he's on right now for the Night Girl he's working part-time because they couldn't find somebody younger to work those hours, and you're not getting paid a lot
Yeah.
working part-time, but Ondeco can do it, and so he is.
Yeah.
But, ideally, you wanna hire somebody that's 25 years old that had a little setup in their room and played radio, and now they're on
Yeah.
98 Rock, and
Yeah.
maybe they've got aspirations to go somewhere. 98 Rock used to be a destination, and now it's a spinning,
Yeah.
revolving door as far as some of the other jobs like promotions or
Yeah.
some other things. It's different now than it was years ago, but just like we were saying, Ford's trying to take AM radio out of their vehicles. You got
Yeah.
Joe Rogan killing it on Spotify and all of these whodunit crime, true crime podcasts.
Yeah.
Everybody listening to their own playlists that they made. It's different. It's a whole different ballgame. Like I say, we're putting horseshoes on horses.
Yeah.
But you know
Well,
what? It could come back. Kids could be nostalgic. It's just like vinyl came
yeah.
back. Maybe radio comes back. Nobody
Yeah.
knows. And I'll tell you, when there's a disaster,
That
Maui, which is just it shakes my. I was married on Maui.
yeah.
I've been to Lahaina. I've been to Hawaii 4 times. What are you
Yeah.
gonna listen to if there's a snowstorm in your area, or
Right.
if there's a wildfire? You're gonna listen to radio. You're gonna
Yeah.
listen to Sirius XM.
Right.
So
Right.
that's I think radio is always going to have a place. It may even make a comeback.
Yeah.
You never know. If people be like podcasting, well, where did this come from? Well, it's kind of like broadcasting, and
Yeah.
maybe I'm going to be a broadcaster instead of a podcaster and talk to 10 of my friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And listen, I started a podcast in 2012, and everybody's like, "What time you on? How can I hear it? Hey, what time you guys do that thing, man?" Now people get it. They didn't get it back then. And I
Yeah.
couldn't figure out how to monetize it. It's like pull
Yeah.
my hair out. You got to come up with topics and edit it,
Yeah, it's a
write
lot
up
of work.
what it's
Yeah.
about, your picture, and then get it out to Stitcher and all these places.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, it segues right into the next question. So, and I always talk about this because it's a fine line. I run a morning show with another girl, and on Fridays we have a couple of people that come in. But most of my day is, what are we going to talk about on Facebook? What topic are we going to put out there? Did you tweet what we're doing next hour? Most of what I do now is not even radio. It's a chance to get people from wherever they're at to the radio. Do you find how do you handle that? Is that something do you guys have a team down there that does it, or is that something you're in charge of, or do you just say, screw it, when I'm on the air, we're on the air?
No, we have a producer, and he's busy taking phone calls and editing things, and like we do a promo for the next day, and during the show he's editing, and he's getting 5 phone callers for real or fake that we play every day. So no, we're not saying next hour we've got this on Twitter. Like, we talk to Joan Jett once a week about the Orioles. She's bat-esque crazy about the Orioles. But we don't tweet out coming up in 10 minutes, Joan Jett.
Yeah.
But we'll take a picture and put it up on Instagram or on our Facebook page. And people love that. But
Yeah.
you don't want to wear them out, because then they'll fly right by your stuff sometimes. I think there's a fine line. Like, we'll put out something coming up today, this, bing, boom. And that's on Instagram story, and it's like, it'll get your attention. Then it goes away after, we're not every day, all day long, Facebooking, tweeting,
Right.
or Xing and Instagramming. I hate social media. Can I say it?
You can. You can
It's
say
just
it.
everybody with their best face forward. Nobody stepping in poop. Everybody's rocking it. And I'm guilty of it. If you got to play the game, play the game. It takes so much time, and I waste so much time, and I'll stop myself. I'm of
Yeah.
an age where I didn't have this. I don't care. I don't sit here and look at my phone all the time, and it'll say your phone time was down 23% last. I'm like, you damn right it was. I'm going to be in the moment. People at the concert with their phone like this the whole thing.
Yeah.
Sit down, man. Sit down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you've seen some legends. You've worked for. I know you just had a lot of people come through 98 Rock. But what is a story that you have that you maybe never told on the air? Maybe a firing of somebody, or something that you saw in radio that you probably would never see again. Do you have any kind of stories when your buddies are around? You're like, oh, bro, let me tell you what happened here.
Wow. I may have been a little rowdier. 7 to midnight. I may have stayed up a couple of days on substance. I remember being at Daytona's or AL Gators or Network or whatever it was called at the time, and Jolynn Turner, who sang with Rainbow. What a great voice. Do you remember me on the street of dreams? Great voice, sang with Rainbow, had his own career, and we'd go back to his hotel room and get the Rosedale flu back in the day. And he had a wig, and you knew he had a wig, but you never saw him without the wig. And then he got up in my face and he says, "What are you doing with your life? You don't know what your name." He took his wig off, and I went, "Oh, I'm looking at Jolynn Turner's head." But yeah,
wow,
things like that, man. And
that'll sober you up real quick.
oh yeah. Here I am driving home, and everybody's driving to work with wet hair and a cup of coffee. Leaving Jolynn Turner's hotel room with 5 strippers and 2 of my buddies. But things like that, man. I'm so lucky to still be around, and because I was working 7 to midnight, and there wasn't a lot of fentanyl to worry about back then. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I'm not. I made it to here where I am now. I just because there were a lot of chances for things to go sideways, and I get off work now, Danny and Marco, and I come home, and I don't go out unless I'm getting paid. I just don't go out and stand around in a bar. What's your name? I'm Kirk. Kirk. Ain't nobody got time for that. So, divorced with 2 kids, sort of back on the menu, ladies, if you DM me.
I think that you had their attention at the Coke bottle, so I'm pretty sure they're.
I got a couple of texts. Yeah, a couple of texts came in right after. But
oh man,
yeah, it's
yeah,
it's been fun. I knew what I wanted to do when I was 12 years old, and I got a chance to step in and do it, and had an agent. So when things went sideways, I could prop myself back up, and here I am where I started at 98 Rock, and I thought I'd be in New York or LA, but I'm happy to be in a town. I don't have to say, Kirk. I mean, they know who they know who I am when I roll up somewhere.
Yeah.
And when I was in Tampa, it was like, "I'm sorry, what's your name again?"
Yeah. I really feel like Baltimore. It's like you are Baltimore, and Baltimore is you. And I can't even imagine you in Tampa, because I do feel like that was I don't know. You're just it is kind of interchangeable, and I think it's amazing and great. Like, again, intermingle with the Orioles and the Ravens. And I remember when you first did TV, I think at BAL, you were doing some things when I was at 98 Rock, when you were there too. And, I just think it's really, it's where your home should be. And yeah, I hope you have a even longer career there, because they'd be dumb to not have you until the day you say you're done. So,
well, if they didn't blow me out in Tampa, I'd still be there. Did you bump your head, Danny? Oh my God, it's so nice. I'd wake up and it's 80 degrees, palmetto buds flying at me. If you're not awake, you don't need coffee, because you walk into the kitchen at 4 a.m. But you get off the air at 10 o'clock. It's hot out, people fishing, and you've got amusement parks, and every band in the wintertime, they're going to start their tour in Florida. Great. But it is nice being back in Baltimore. The Ravens, I had to leave Baltimore, go down to Tampa, and talk about the Lightning, the Rays, and the Bucks. I didn't know, to get a background in sports, to come back up to Baltimore and do the Ravens and the Orioles. But life works its own way, man. It's like a stream that goes the way it wants to go. You can't really. It's hard to make it go the way you want it to. You can, but you just kind of ride it. And I've ridden it. I wanted to do. In my 50s, I think back and think I should have done play-by-play. Or I should have stuck with guitar and joined a band and or stayed with comedy and toured and played Des Moines and stay in some Motel 6 and all these things that I could have done. But you know what? I'm content where I am. You always, when you're laying in bed, waking up in the morning or going to bed at night, things run around your head. But when the day starts, I'm in the spot where I should be.
Yeah.
Well, you're a legend there, all the way, obviously, from University of Maryland, 98 Rock, working through the DMV area. What are people going to remember about Kirk McEwen, that whether they worked with you or they listened to you or they just grew up with you? What is the legacy you want to leave on the radio, really, for yourself?
Hopefully they'll ride on my road. I've made it known on the air many times. I saw Bob Ehrlich, former governor of Maryland's got a road on Route 200, and he's alive. He can drive down that road and be like, honey, look, I don't need 95 or 295. I just need
a cul-de-sac,
a street. Brooks Robinson got a road. Cal Ripken, I'd like a street. But really, when it comes down to legacy, Marco and Danny, I've tried to treat people right. People say, hey man, can you get me tickets for this blah, blah, blah concert? And I try and get them tickets. If somebody gives me a tape for Rick Strauss, my boss, I take the tape in.
Yeah.
My buddy asked me for Orioles tickets last week. 2 weeks after he asked me for Orioles tickets that I've got a friend who I met that works for the Orioles. And I said to my friend, my guy at the Orioles is on vacation this week. If he gets back to me, I'll let you know. And then I felt guilty, and I texted my friend with the Orioles, and he said, no problem. Give me the name and address. He's got to go through ballpark to get the tickets. Blah, blah, blah. So I text my buddy back, and I said, I got you tickets. That's what I want my legacy to be.
Yeah.
Your word is your word. And my dad told me that a long time ago. And do I do it every single time? No. But I tell you what, man, I go to the wall for people. And it's so easy to say, hey, man, he said no.
Yeah.
Instead of trying.
Right.
So
there's something to be said for that, for sure.
I'd like to try and help people out and do what I say I'm going to do. And it doesn't always work, but I know that I gave it a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it would be remiss here. I'm a Commanders fan. You're a Ravens fan, but we both are Orioles fans. And this year, the magic seems to be back at Camden Yards. Being down there, is the excitement what I see now? I have to, when you move away from the city, I have to pay all this money for this thing so I can watch Baltimore, Washington TV, which I still do. So it's like I've never left, but I still watch all the Orioles games. Is it as exciting there in the city as I think it is?
Bro, when you suck as long as the Orioles did, you get a lot of good draft picks. But here's the thing. Mike Elias, the general manager, didn't miss. He didn't miss on these draft picks. Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson.
Oh, he's a beast, man.
Oh, my God. Grayson Rodriguez, Colton Cowser, Jordan Westberg. The list goes on. They've got Jackson Holliday, Matt Holliday's son, down on the farm. So the Orioles are the best team in the American League by record. They're a year or two ahead of things. It used to be you go to the game and the Yankees would take things. Let's go Yankees. It's like, come on, man. Now it's an Oriole. It's Oriole Park again.
Yeah.
And they got this splash zone where they're spraying people down.
Oh, I see that on YouTube all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait till it's 45 degrees in September and they're spraying people down. Anyway, I think they're going to be spraying hot chocolate around September. It's really cool to see. It's a baseball town. And they had a hiccup last week where, a couple of weeks, it went from July until last Friday, where the Orioles didn't like what Kevin Brown said.
Oh, that's been all over. Yeah.
You mean he just read the graphic? I mean, that's really all he did.
So the Orioles will try and put a little mud on a beautiful season, but right now, man, it is fun. And you got a game coming up with the Padres as we speak at 9:40. I'll fall asleep in the third inning. I'm in bed by 10:30, but I'll wake up in the morning and run and see what happened, you know?
There you go.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that in 2018. We were losing 100 games a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Well, Kurt, thank you so much for being here, man. We love you. You're a legend, and I was looking forward to speaking to you tonight. You've been everything here, and I'm just really glad to have actually listened to you with my own ears on the radio, and you're still doing it after all these years, man. You have made a big difference in what you do, bro. People love you.
And just remember, F the Commanders, go Ravens.
Hey, we'll see what happens on Monday night, baby.
Marco and Danny, thanks so much for having me on the air and off the record.
Okay, other way.
off the air,
on
and then
the record.
on the record. Try it one more time. Take two.
Thanks for having me on, Danny and Marco, on Off the Record.
No, off the air. We take you off the air and we put you on the record.
Off the air.
You're tarnishing your legacy right now. One more time.
Danny and Marco, thanks so much for having me off the air and on the record.
There you go. Professional right there. Professional.
You guys are the best. Thanks again.
I love you.
All right, man. Take care. There you go. Kirk McEwen, man, just a legend in Washington and in Baltimore, and one of our great friends. It's been fun having you off the air and on the record.